The chamber is open and full of whispers.
November 1981. The wizarding world is celebrating. Lord Voldemort has fallen. The Dark Lord who terrorized Britain for over a decade, who killed and tortured with impunity, who seemed unstoppable, gone. Destroyed by a 1-year-old boy in a house in Godric's Hollow on Halloween night. But victory has a price, and in the chaotic weeks following Voldemort's fall, that price comes due in blood. The First Wizarding War didn't end cleanly. Cornered followers lashing out as the Ministry closed in. The Longbottoms, Frank and Alice, were tortured into insanity by Bellatrix Lestrange, Rodolphus Lestrange, Rabastum Lestrange, and Barty Crouch Jr. shortly after Voldemort's disappearance. 4 Death Eaters used the Cruciatus Curse until 2 of the Order's finest were reduced to permanent residents of St. Mungo's psychiatric ward, unable to recognize their own son. November 15, 1981. The Burrow burns. The Burrow stands in Devon, a ramshackle house held together more by magic than architecture. It shouldn't be standing at all, rooms added haphazardly over the years, defying every principle of Muggle engineering and most principles of magical construction. But it stands because it's home. Because Arthur and Molly Weasley filled it with love and children. And life. 7 children. Bill, 11 years old, already at Hogwarts. Charlie, 9, obsessed with dragons. Percy, 5, organizing his older brother's possessions without permission. Fred and George, 3, identical and inseparable and already showing signs of dangerous creativity. Ron, 20 months old, with red hair and freckles, and a laugh that fills rooms. And Ginny, not yet born. Molly is 6 months pregnant. Molly's brothers, Fabian and Gideon Pruitt, were killed fighting 5 Death Eaters, including Antonin Dolohov, during the First Wizarding War. In this divergence, the timeline shifts. The attack that kills the Pruitt brothers is part of a larger coordinated assault. Death Eaters seeking revenge against Order families in the power vacuum, following Voldemort's fall. Dolohov leads the attack. He brings Travers and Mulciber. They arrive at night, when the children are sleeping. Arthur Weasley dies first, hit by a killing curse as he steps out of the burrow to investigate the ward's triggering. He doesn't scream. He doesn't have time. The green light takes him and he falls in his own garden, among the gnomes he'd been meaning to de-gnome for weeks. Molly Weasley hears the spell, hears the absence of her husband's voice, and she knows. She gets the older children to the flue, screaming at Bill to take Charlie and Percy, to get them to Muriel's, to go. Bill is 11 years old and he will remember his mother's face for the rest of his life. The absolute certainty that she was about to die, and the absolute determination that her children would not. The twins are too young for flue powder. Ron is too young. Molly stands in front of the nursery door with her wand raised, and she fights. Molly Weasley killed Bellatrix Lestrange in single combat during the Battle of Hogwarts. This is a woman who can duel, but she's pregnant and she's protecting toddlers. And they are not dueling, they are killing. She takes Travers down with a blasting curse that collapses part of the staircase. She hits Mulciber with something that makes him scream. But Dolohov is a killer with a decade of experience, and his purple flame curse catches Molly in the chest. She falls. The nursery door is still closed. Inside, 3 toddlers are crying. Dolohov doesn't kill them. He's not there to kill children. The Dark Lord is gone, and without orders, even Death Eaters have limits. He leaves them. Leaves the burrow burning with magical fire. Leaves 20-month-old Ron Weasley crying next to his mother's body. The Aurors arrive 17 minutes later. Too late. They find Bill Weasley sobbing in the flue at Muriel's house, trying to explain what happened. They find Arthur dead in the garden. They find Molly dead on the stairs, her wand still clutched in her hand. They find the twins and Ron in the nursery, alive. November 18th, 1981. The Grangers don't come home. Hermione Jean Granger was born September 19th, 1979, to David and Helen Granger. 2 Muggle dentists with a practice in London and absolutely no connection to the wizarding world. They don't know magic exists. They don't know their daughter is magical. They just know that sometimes strange things happen around her, and they're researching developmental psychology to understand it. Widespread Muggle killings during the Death Eater reprisals of late 1981. The attacks weren't random. Death Eaters had access to Ministry records. They'd spent over a decade infiltrating the government. Birth records of Muggle-born children were documented by the Accidental Magic Reversal Squad. Someone could find them, if they wanted to. Whether the attack on the Grangers is targeted or random doesn't matter. The result is the same. David and Helen Granger die in their home on November 18th, 1981. A killing curse through the kitchen window. No warning. No chance to fight. They're Muggles. They can't see the attack coming. 2-year-old Hermione is in her room when it happens. She's surrounded by picture books, trying to read words she shouldn't be able to read yet. She's always been precocious, always ahead of developmental milestones. Her parents called her their little genius. When she starts crying, when she realizes her parents aren't coming, accidental magic triggers. Books fly off shelves. Her nightlight explodes. The burst of magical energy is strong enough that the accidental magic reversal squad detects it from London. They arrive to find a destroyed Muggle home, 2 dead Muggles, and a toddler displaying clear signs of magical ability. Protocol is clear. Magical children without guardians enter ministry care. The Obliviators handle the Muggle authorities. The paperwork is filed. Hermione Jean Granger, age 2, becomes a ward of the Wizarding State. December 1981. 3 orphans. 1 problem. Albus Dumbledore sits in his office at Hogwarts and faces a crisis of his own making. He has already placed Harry Potter with Petunia Dursley. The blood protection is sealed. As long as Harry can call 4 Privet Drive home, Lily's sacrificial magic will protect him from Voldemort's followers. The charm is powerful, ancient, and absolutely inflexible. Harry must live with Petunia, not visit, live. But Dumbledore is also a chess player, and he sees moves ahead that no one else sees. 3 orphaned magical children sit in ministry care. Ronald Weasley, 20 months old, too young to be claimed by traumatized extended family members, overwhelmed with grief. Muriel has taken Bill, Charlie, and Percy, but 3 more children is too many. Fred and George went to an aunt. Ron went to the state. Hermione Granger, 2 years old, has no magical relatives at all. She's in a ministry care facility with house elves and rotating supervisors. And Dumbledore has seen those facilities. They're adequate. Nothing more. And then there's Harry Potter, the boy who lived, the child who destroyed Voldemort. Currently sleeping in a cupboard under the stairs at 4 Privet Drive, because Petunia Dursley remembers her sister and hates magic and has transferred that hatred to a 1-year-old boy with green eyes. Dumbledore's strategic calculus operates on multiple levels. First, he needs Severus Snape bound to the light permanently, not just by guilt over Lily Evans's death, not just by a promise made in desperation, but by living, breathing responsibility that walks and talks and needs him every single day. A man who promised anything needs something worth protecting. Second, he knows, in a way he knows things, that Voldemort will return. The Dark Lord made Horcruxes. Dumbledore hasn't confirmed it yet, but he suspects. And when Voldemort returns, Dumbledore will need operatives raised with unusual skills. Children trained not by Hogwarts professors teaching curriculum, but by someone who survived as a double agent. Someone who knows how Death Eaters think. Someone who can teach them to survive. Third, he needs to keep Harry close to someone he controls while maintaining the Blood Wards. If Harry lives primarily with Snape, but returns to Privet Drive for 2 weeks each summer, enough to call it home and renew the bond, Dumbledore gets both the protection and the strategic upbringing. It's ruthless. It's manipulative. It's exactly the kind of long-game strategy that won Dumbledore his reputation as the only wizard Voldemort ever feared. And it requires Severus Snape. The man who promised anything. Severus Snape is 21 years old in December 1981. He looks older. Grief and guilt age people faster than time. He's a newly appointed Hogwarts professor. Potions master, the position he earned through sheer brilliance despite being barely old enough to legally drink in the Muggle world. He's a former Death Eater, cleared of charges through Dumbledore's testimony. He's a double agent who spent the last year of the war feeding information to the Order while maintaining his cover with Voldemort. He's a man who loved Lily Evans from age 9 until the day she died, and whose actions, carrying a prophecy to Voldemort like a gift, directly caused her murder. He is also a man who knelt in Dumbledore's office 6 weeks ago and begged, "Hide them all. Keep them safe. Please. What will you give me in return, Severus?" Snape is in his office, grading first-year essays with the kind of vicious precision that has already made him the most feared professor at Hogwarts. A silver phoenix Patronus materializes in front of his desk. "My office, Severus." Immediately. He goes. Dumbledore's office is circular, full of silver instruments and sleeping portraits, and Fawkes preening on his perch. The headmaster sits behind his desk, looking older than Snape has ever seen him. The war aged everyone. "Sit down, Severus." He doesn't ask what this is about. He learned long ago that Dumbledore reveals information in his own time, on his own terms. "You promised me anything," Dumbledore says. "Do you remember?" "Yes." Snape's voice is flat. He knows where this is going, and he already hates it. "I am asking you to raise her son." The silence stretches. Snape's hands clench on the arms of the chair. "No. And 2 others who need what you can give them. Protection, discipline, the kind of education no school provides. I am 21 years old. I am a professor. I am a former Death Eater barely cleared of suspicion. I have no parenting instinct, no warmth, no patience for children. You cannot possibly," the boy has her eyes, "Severus. And he will be hunted," Dumbledore continues, his voice gentle and absolutely merciless. "They all will be, when Tom returns. And he will return, Severus. We both know it." "Would you have them with families who can love them?" Snape says, but his voice is weaker now. "With people who know how to raise children. Not with you?" Dumbledore's eyes are very blue, Very sharp. You, who survived as a double agent for 3 years. You, who created 7 original spells as a student. You, who can brew any potion flawlessly, who mastered occlumency well enough to deceive the most dangerous legilimens in history. You think you have nothing to teach them. I would ruin them. Perhaps. Or perhaps you would forge them into something strong enough to survive what's coming. Dumbledore stands, walks to the window overlooking the grounds. The Weasley boy has no magical family at all. Harry, is with Petunia Dursley, who hates magic and makes that hatred clear every day. Snape's jaw tightens. Then remove him from her care. The blood protection requires Petunia. As long as Harry calls her house home, Lily's sacrifice protects him from Voldemort's followers. It is the most powerful protection I can give him. Then your plan fails. Not if you can provide a compromise. Dumbledore turns. Harry lives with you. Spinner's End becomes his home. But each summer he returns to Privet Drive for 2 weeks. Long enough to satisfy the bond. To call it home. To renew the protection. The rest of the year, he is yours. Snape stares. You're asking me to raise 3 children I don't know in a house I hate, while teaching full-time at Hogwarts. I'm asking you to keep a promise. I'm offering you what you want more than anything else in this world. A chance to protect Lily's son. To give him the life she would have wanted. To ensure that when Voldemort returns, Harry Potter is not defenseless. The silence is longer this time. Snape's mind is racing through logistics, through objections, through the sheer impossibility of what Dumbledore is asking. But he sees green eyes in his memory. Hears Lily's voice. Remembers the prophecy he carried to Voldemort like a gift, and the screaming that resulted when Voldemort chose the Potters. How? Snape asks. And knows he's lost. Spinner's End will be placed under a Fidelius charm. I will be the secret keeper. The house will be unplottable, invisible to anyone not told its location. You will have privacy and security. Hogwarts will provide a house elf to assist with the children while you teach. You'll need to commute, but the Flu network connects to my office. We'll establish a schedule. They're toddlers. They need constant supervision. Then you will learn to provide it, or delegate it. Severus Dumbledore's voice softens. I am not asking you to be a perfect parent. I am asking you to be present. To protect them. To teach them what they need to survive. You don't have to love them, you just have to keep them alive. Snape closes his eyes. When? December 15th. 10 days from now. That gives you time to prepare Spinner's End. Then learn. Dumbledore's voice is gentle. You promised me anything, Severus. This is what I'm asking for. Snape stands, walks to the door, pauses with his hand on the handle. Their names? Harry James Potter, Ronald Bilious Weasley, Hermione Jean Granger, the Granger girl. She's Muggle-born. Yes, Lucius Malfoy will see this as the ultimate betrayal. A half-blood Death Eater raising the boy who lived, and a mudblood. The slur tastes like ash in Snape's mouth, but he needs Dumbledore to understand. Then Lucius Malfoy will need to reconcile himself to disappointment, Dumbledore says. You are no longer in the business of pleasing Lucius Malfoy. Snape leaves without another word. He has 10 days to transform Spinner's End. The house of his abusive childhood, the place where his father shouted and his mother cowered and the small dark-haired boy cried in corners, into something that can house 3 orphaned children. He has no idea where to start. Spinner's End, from dunghill to fortress. Spinner's End with vivid specificity. The house sits at the end of Cobbled Street in Cokeworth, a post-industrial town in northern England. A dirty river flows nearby. An abandoned mill chimney looms over rows of deserted brick houses and broken street lamps. Bellatrix Lestrange would later call it a Muggle dunghill. The interior is worse. A tiny sitting room with the feeling of a dark padded cell, walls completely covered in old leather-bound books, a threadbare sofa, an old armchair, a rickety table under a candle-filled lamp that casts dim, flickering light. A hidden staircase leads upward. The whole house carries an air of neglect, as though it was not usually inhabited. This is the house where Tobias Snape, hook-nosed, angry, violent, shouted at Eiling Prince, until she stopped fighting back. Where a small boy learned that the world was cruel, and home was not safe, and magic was the only thing that made him special. Snape hasn't lived here since he was 17. He keeps it because selling it would mean acknowledging his childhood existed. He visits twice a year to maintain the wards. That's all. Now he stands in a sitting room, wand in hand, and tries to see it as something other than a monument to his failures. Wizarding space expansion charms are common magic. The same enchantments that make Tense palatial in Goblet of Fire, that make the TARDIS bigger on the inside, that allow Hermione's beaded bag to hold a library. Snape is a master of enchantment. He created Muffliato and Langlock and Sectum Sempra as a student. Space expansion is child's play. The upstairs transforms first. What was a single bedroom and a cramped bathroom becomes a proper corridor with 3 small bedrooms. and a bathroom that actually fits a bathtub. The bedrooms are identical. A bed, a wardrobe, a small desk, a window overlooking the back garden. Snape doesn't decorate. He doesn't know how to decorate for children. They're functional spaces. That will have to be enough. The sitting room stays book-lined. The books are his. And he's not removing them, but he adds better lighting, cushions to the threadbare sofa, and reluctantly clears a space on the floor where children can play. He doesn't own toys. He has no idea what toys children need. He makes a note to ask the house elf. The kitchen expands. What was barely functional for a bachelor becomes large enough to actually cook meals. Snape is an excellent potions master, which translates reasonably well to cooking if you approach recipes like formulas. He stocks the pantry with ingredients, buys dishes that won't shatter if dropped, installs protective charms on the knives. The cellar becomes his potions laboratory. This is non-negotiable. He needs a workspace and children cannot be allowed near certain ingredients. He wards the door with everything he knows. Blood wards, age wards, intent-based wards that will reject anyone under 17. The stairs themselves are enchanted to repel small bodies. A determined toddler trying to reach the cellar would find themselves mysteriously back in the sitting room, with no memory of how they got there. The most significant addition is the back garden. Cokeworth is industrial grimness pressed in from all sides, but behind Snape's wards, he expands the small dirt patch into something larger. Not beautiful. Snape doesn't do beautiful, but functional. Space for potions ingredients to grow. Asphodel and wormwood and dittany and valerian. A patch of clear ground where children can run without destroying his plants. He grows wolfsbane in the back corner. Lacewing flies breed near the water feature. Gillyweed floats in a charmed pond. This garden will be the children's primary outdoor space. They'll learn to tend asphodel before they learn to ride bicycles. They'll know the difference between aconite and belladonna before they know their multiplication tables. The Fidelius charm is Dumbledore's work. The headmaster arrives on December 14th, performs the intricate spellwork that makes Spinner's End unplottable and invisible to anyone not explicitly told the location. Dumbledore is the secret keeper. Only he can reveal the house's location. Even if someone stood on cobbled street and stared directly at the space between the neighboring buildings, they would see nothing. It's the same magic that protected the Potters at Godric's Hollow. It didn't save them, but not because the charm failed. It failed because the secret keeper betrayed them. Snape trusts Dumbledore in a way he trusts almost no one else. Not because Dumbledore is trustworthy. Dumbledore is a manipulative chess master who plays with people's lives, but because Dumbledore's goals align with keeping these children alive. For now, that's enough. The house elf arrives on December 15th, an hour before the children. Her name is Nippy. She's been assigned from Hogwarts Kitchens, a temporary loan that will become permanent. She's small, efficient, and takes one look at Snape's face, and wisely says nothing about the 3 cribs that have been assembled in the sitting room. Cribs. Because Ron is 20 months old, and Hermione is 2, and Harry is 15 months. And none of them are old enough for beds yet. Snape stands in the doorway of the sitting room and stares at the 3 cribs lined up against the wall. The only wall not covered in books. They look wrong. Foreign. Like objects from another universe that have manifested in his space. Master Snape, Nippy says carefully. Is there anything Nippy should prepare for the children's arrival? Nippy knows children, Master Snape. Nippy will help. You'll need to. I have to return to Hogwarts tomorrow to teach. You'll be responsible for them during school hours. The knock on the door comes at exactly 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Snape opens it to find Dumbledore holding a very small child with messy black hair and green eyes. Behind him, a ministry witch carries a red-haired toddler in one arm and a brown-haired girl in the other. Severus, Dumbledore says. May we come in? Snape steps aside, lets them into his house, his home, the place that is about to become something he doesn't have a name for. Dumbledore sets Harry Potter down on the cleared floor space. The boy immediately sits down and stares up at Snape with Lily's eyes. Ron Weasley is asleep on the ministry witch's shoulder. Hermione Granger is crying, quiet, hiccuping sobs that speak of a child who has been crying for weeks and is running out of energy for it. The ministry witch hands over paperwork, guardianship documents signed by officials Snape doesn't care about, granting him legal custody of 3 children he never asked for. He signs where indicated. His handwriting is precise and controlled, and nothing like his emotional state. They'll need routine, the witch says. Regular meals, regular sleep schedules. The Weasley boy is teething. The Granger girl has been having nightmares. Mr. Potter has been very quiet since the incident. Noted. Snape takes the parchment, folds it carefully. Anything else? Good luck, Professor. The witch sounds sincere. She hands him Ron, who stays asleep through the transfer. And then she leaves. Dumbledore stays. I'll visit weekly to check on your progress. If you need anything, I'll contact you. Snape's arms are full of sleeping toddler, and he's very aware of Harry staring at him and Hermione crying. You should go, Severus. And Severus Snape stands in the sitting room of Spinner's End, with 3 orphaned children and absolutely no idea what to do next. Nippy appears at his elbow. Master Snape should put the Weasley boy in his crib. Nippy will feed the other children. They've eaten? Not since breakfast. Master Snape? Children need regular meals. Right. Of course. Snape carries Ron to one of the cribs, the middle one, and sets him down carefully. The boy doesn't wake. He curls around a ratty stuffed toy that came with him from the ministry and keeps sleeping. Harry is still sitting on the floor, watching. Hermione is still crying. What do I do about the crying? Snape asks Nippy, and hates how helpless he sounds. Pick her up, Master Snape. Small children need holding when they're sad. Precisely. She's tiny, 2 years old, small for her age, with brown eyes and tears running down her face. He picks her up the way he's seen mothers do, one hand under her bottom, one hand supporting her back. She immediately buries her face in his shoulder and cries, "Harder." I don't. Snape starts, but Nippy is already gone to prepare food. He stands in the middle of his sitting room, holding a crying toddler, while another toddler sleeps and a third watches with eyes that are too knowing for 15 months. Shh, Snape tries. It comes out awkward and uncertain. You're safe. You're going to be fine. Hermione doesn't stop crying, but after a moment her sobs quiet slightly. She's exhausted. She's been crying for weeks, since her parents died, and now she's in a strange house, with a strange man, and everything is wrong. Snape sits down in his armchair, keeps holding her. He doesn't sing, he doesn't know any songs. He doesn't coo or whisper comforting nonsense. He just sits there, this dark, angular man who has never been comfortable with physical contact, holding a 2-year-old who needs comfort he doesn't know how to provide. Eventually, Hermione falls asleep. Her tears stop. Her breathing evens out. Snape sits very, very still, terrified of waking her. Harry crawls over to the armchair, pulls himself up using Snape's robes, stares up at him with Lily's green eyes. Da, Harry says. It's his first word according to the ministry notes. He learned it at Privet Drive, though Vernon and Petunia must have discouraged it because the notes say he only says it when distressed. No, Snape says quietly. I'm not your father, but you're safe here. I promise you that. Harry doesn't understand the words, but maybe he understands the tone, because he rests his head against Snape's knee and stays there. This is how it begins. A bitter, brilliant, broken man sitting in a dark room with a sleeping girl on his chest, a sleeping boy in a crib, and a toddler leaning against his leg. 3 children who have lost everything. 1 man who has already failed at everything that matters. Snape sits in the gathering darkness and doesn't move, doesn't put the children in their cribs, doesn't call Nippy to take them. He promised to love them. Good thing, because he's fairly certain he doesn't know how. But as Hermione's weight settles against his chest, as Harry's small hand grips his robes, as Ron sleeps on, oblivious, something shifts. Not love, not yet, but maybe the space where love could grow, if he doesn't destroy it first. It takes him 3 more nights of hearing Harry cry before he goes to the crib himself, before he picks up the boy with Lily's eyes and carries him to the armchair and sits in silence. He doesn't sing, he doesn't speak. He just holds the child who is not his son in the house that was never a home and begins the long painful process of learning what it means to be needed. This is how it begins, not with love, with presence, with the simple terrifying act of showing up, day after day, for children who have nowhere else to go. Severus Snape is 21 years old. He is about to become the most unlikely father in wizarding history, and somehow, impossibly, he will make it work. The first year, learning to survive each other, the first year at Spinner's End, is not a heartwarming montage of found family bonding. It's survival. 3 toddlers learning to exist in a house that smells like potions and old books. 1 21-year-old man learning that children require constant attention in ways he's fundamentally unprepared for. Nippy saves them all. The house elf establishes routines because Snape doesn't know how. Breakfast at 7, lunch at noon, dinner at 6, bath time at 7:30, bed at 8. Children thrive on routine, Nippy explains. And Snape, who has structured his entire life around discipline and control, understands this intellectually even if the execution baffles him. The commute to Hogwarts happens via Flu Network. Dumbledore's office is connected to Spinner's End, and every morning at 7:30, Snape steps through green flames to teach potions to students who are only 6 years older than Harry. He teaches until 4 o'clock, returns home, spends evenings with 3 children who are slowly, tentatively beginning to accept that this dark house and this dark man are permanent fixtures. He doesn't know how to play. When Ron toddles over with blocks, Snape stares at them like they're a particularly complex potions formula he hasn't encountered before. Nippy demonstrates stacking. Ron knocks them down and laughs. Snape doesn't laugh, but something in his face softens, fractionally. Hermione discovers the books early. At 2 years old, she can't read yet, but she's drawn to them the way some children are drawn to toys. She pulls volumes off the lower shelves and spreads them around her like a nest. Snape finds her one evening surrounded by advanced potion making and Mos de Potente potions in a treatise on defensive magic, babbling to herself. "Those are not appropriate for a 2-year-old," he says. Hermione looks up at him with brown eyes that are far too serious. "Book," she says. It's one of her first words. Snape hesitates. Then he picks up a different book from his personal collection. A children's treasury of magical creatures, something his mother read to him once a lifetime ago. He sits down on the floor next to Hermione and opens it. "This," he says, pointing to an illustration of a hippogriff, "is a hippogriff. It has the body of a horse and the head and wings of an eagle. You bow to show respect. If it bows back, you may approach. If it doesn't, you walk away. Slowly. Never run from a hippogriff." Hermione listens with an intensity that's unsettling in someone so young. When he's done, she points to the next page. More. He reads to her for 20 minutes. Nippy finds them there. Severus Snape sitting cross-legged on his sitting room floor, reading about magical creatures to a 2-year-old who hangs on every word. The house elf says nothing, but she makes a note to acquire more children's books. Harry is the quietest. At 15 months, he doesn't talk much. The ministry note said he was very quiet since the incident. And Snape understands. The boy watched his parents die, watched green light and heard screaming. He has nightmares, wakes up crying about green light and a woman's voice screaming. The first time it happens, Snape is in his laboratory brewing a dreamless sleep draught for himself. He hears Harry crying through the wards and freezes. Nippy is asleep. House elves need rest too. And Snape gave her the night off. He climbs the stairs to the children's room. Harry is standing in his crib, tears streaming down his face, reaching for something that isn't there. "Mama," he says. "Mama, mama, mama. Can't bring back the dead. Can't erase memories. Can't fix this. Your mother isn't here," he finally says, and winces at how cruel it sounds. "But you're safe. He stops. Tries again. "Come here," he picks Harry up. The boy is warm and small and still crying. Snape carries him to the armchair in the sitting room, the same chair where he held Hermione that first day, and sits down. "Your mother loved you," Snape says quietly. "She died protecting you. That love, it's still protecting you. Do you understand?" He's 15 months old, but he's crying less now. Exhausted sobs tapering off. He rests his head against Snape's chest and clutches his robes with small fists. Snape sits there until Harry falls asleep. Then he keeps sitting, because moving might wake the child, and if Harry wakes up he'll start crying again, and Snape will have to figure out what to do all over again. When morning comes, Nippy finds them still in the armchair. Snape's neck is cramped and his arm is numb, and Harry is drooling on his robes. "Master Snape should have called Nippy," the house elf says reproachfully. "I handled it," Snape says, and carefully transfers Harry back to his crib. This becomes the pattern. Harry has nightmares 3 nights a week. Snape sits with him every time. He doesn't sing lullabies or tell comforting stories. He just holds the boy until the crying stops, reciting the same facts every time. "Your mother loved you. You're safe here. I won't let anything hurt you." It's not warm. It's not what a child psychologist would recommend. But it's honest, and Harry, who has Lily's eyes and is already learning to read truth in people's faces, seems to understand that ages 2 through 4, the foundation. He climbs things that shouldn't be climbable. He gets into the pantry and spreads flour across the kitchen like snow. He discovers the garden and immediately tries to eat a dittany plant before Nippy stops him. Snape is baffled by him. Why would you try to eat a plant you don't recognize? Ron, who is 2 and doesn't have an answer, just laughs. But Ron is also the child who makes Spinner's End feel less like a tomb. He laughs easily. He finds joy in small things, a gnome in the garden, a butterfly near the asphodel, the way soap bubbles catch light during bath time. His laughter fills the dark house in a way nothing else does. Snape doesn't understand joy. His childhood had none. His adolescence was marked by bullying and isolation. His adult life has been war and death and guilt. But Ron laughs, and something in the house shifts, becomes lighter. At 3 years old, Ron starts following Snape around, just toddles after him from room to room, watching everything Snape does with enormous blue eyes. Snape tries ignoring it. Doesn't work. Ron just keeps following. "Dunno," Ron says cheerfully. "What are you doing?" "Grading essays from students who clearly didn't read the assigned chapter." "Oh." Ron thinks about this. "Can I help?" Ron sits down next to Snape's desk anyway and pulls out the blocks Nippy gave him. He plays quietly while Snape works, and Snape discovers that having a small human nearby is less annoying than he expected. Hermione, at 3 years old, is reading. Actually reading. Snape puts a simple children's book in front of her, and she sounds out words with methodical precision. By 3.5, she's reading chapter books meant for 7-year-olds. "This is unusual," Snape tells Dumbledore during one of the headmaster's weekly check-ins. "Hermione was always going to be exceptional," Dumbledore says. Her intellect is extraordinary. You'll need to challenge her, Severus, or she'll become bored and frustrated. So Snape starts leaving books where Hermione can find them. Age-appropriate at first, then gradually more advanced. Hermione devours them all. By 4 years old, she's asking questions about transfiguration theory that Snape has to actually research to answer properly. Why does Gamp's law say you can't conjure food? She asks one evening at dinner. Snape pauses with his fork halfway to his mouth. Where did you read about Gamp's law? The Transfiguration book in the sitting room. Third shelf, green cover. That book is NEWD level. Snape makes a mental note to reorganize his library so the advanced texts are higher up. Then he realizes Hermione will just learn to climb, and abandons the idea. Gamp's law of elemental transfiguration establishes 5 principal exceptions, he says. Food is the first. You cannot create food from nothing, but you can summon it, multiply it, or transform it. The why is complex. Food is sustenance, and sustenance is tied to life force in ways magic doesn't fully understand. Hermione thinks about this seriously. So, if you're hungry and you have 1 apple, you can make it into 2 apples? Hermione scowls. It's the same scowl Snape makes when a potion doesn't behave as expected. He recognizes himself in her, and doesn't know how to feel about it. Harry, at 3 years old, is the protector. It manifests early and intensifies as he grows. When Ron tries to touch a venomous plant in the garden, Harry physically puts himself between Ron and the danger. When Hermione cries because a book is too difficult, Harry brings her his stuffed toy, the only comfort object he owns. Snape watches this pattern develop with complex emotions. Harry is brave. Of course he is. He's Lily's son, and Lily was brave in ways Snape never managed. But Harry's bravery isn't the reckless Gryffindor glory-seeking that got James killed. It's quiet, structural, the kind of courage that shows up every day and protects the people who matter. Why do you always stand in front of them? Snape asks Harry one afternoon, after Harry has positioned himself between Hermione and a spider she's frightened of. Harry thinks about the question with the seriousness of a 4-year-old who already understands that the world is dangerous. Because they're mine, he finally says. I have to protect them. They're not yours. They're people. Harry corrects. That's the same thing. Snape stares at this small boy with green eyes and messy black hair, and feels something crack in his chest. This is Lily's son. This is what she died to protect. And he's already learned, at 4 years old, that love means standing between the people you care about and danger. Don't get yourself killed being heroic, Snape says, and his voice comes out rougher than intended. Heroism is how people die. But you have to protect people, Harry says, confused. You protect us. He's spent 3 years teaching these children that the world is dangerous, that they need to be careful, that survival requires caution. But he's also teaching them, through example, through the wards he places on the house every night, through the way he checks on them during nightmares, that protecting your people is worth any risk. The contradiction doesn't escape Harry. Even at 4, he sees it. And he's learning from it. The garden, age 4. The garden, at Spinner's End, is Snape's domain. He grows ingredients with the precision of a master potionnier. Asphodel in the north corner where it gets morning sun. Wolfsbane in the shadiest section because direct light makes it less potent. Dittany near the water source. Every plant is catalogued. Every harvest is measured. The children aren't supposed to touch anything. Snape has explained this multiple times. These plants are valuable. Some are dangerous. You look, you observe, you ask questions. You do not touch. Ron, age 4, discovers a gnome living under the valerian. The shriek of delight is loud enough that Snape drops the lacewing flies he's harvesting and looks up sharply. Ron is crouched near the valerian patch, staring at a lumpy, potato-like creature with enormous feet. Don't touch it, Snape says immediately. It's a gnome. Ron is vibrating with excitement. Look at it. It's so ugly it's brilliant. The gnome, which has been living peacefully in Snape's garden for at least a year, without incident, chooses this moment to throw a clod of dirt at Ron's face. Ron laughs like it's the best thing that's ever happened to him. Hermione toddles over to investigate. She's 4 now, reading at a second-year level, and she examines the gnome with academic interest. Garden gnomes are classified as pests by the Ministry, she announces. They dig up plants, and their presence indicates poor garden maintenance. Thank you for that assessment, Snape says dryly. Now step away from it before it bites you. Harry appears from nowhere. He has a talent for materializing when his siblings are near potential danger, and stations himself between the gnome and the others. At 4 years old, he's already mastered the protective stance. Is it dangerous? Only to root vegetables and one's dignity, Snape says. Gnomes are pests. I should remove it. Don't. Ron looks genuinely distressed. It lives here. This is its home. This is my garden. But it's been here for ages, hasn't it? You said you've been growing these plants for years. So the gnome has been here too. That makes it part of the garden. Snape stares at Ron. The child has a point. though admitting it feels like losing some essential battle. The gnome has been living here peacefully. It hasn't damaged the plants. Removing it would be removing something that's become part of the ecosystem. It stays, Snape finally says, but if it damages my asphodel, I'm denoming the entire garden. Ron's face lights up. Thanks. Can we name it? Absolutely not. I'm calling it Rupert, Ron announces. And just like that, the gnome has a name. Snape watches this scene, Ron delighted by the ugliest creature imaginable, Hermione cataloging its features for future reference, Harry standing guard in case the gnome turns aggressive, and feels something he can't name. These 3 children are his responsibility. They're also becoming something else, something that looks uncomfortably like family. He tells them gnomes are pests. He doesn't remove this one. Years later, he'll realize this is the moment he stopped treating Spinner's End like a temporary arrangement and started treating it like a home. Ages 5 through 7, the education begins. Potions education starts the week Harry turns 5. Snape doesn't begin with brewing. That's too dangerous for children whose motor control is still developing. He begins with identification. This, he says, holding up a root, is asphodel. What does it look like? White and long, Harry says. More specific. Like a white carrot. Adequate. What does it smell like? He passes it to Harry, who sniffs cautiously. Sort of sweet and earthy. Asphodel is used in the Draught of Living Death, the Wiggenweld potion, and several dozen other brews. If you cannot identify it on sight and smell, you cannot brew properly. Again, every evening after dinner, Snape pulls out ingredients from his laboratory and quizzes them. By age 6, all 3 children can identify common potion ingredients by sight, smell, and texture. By 7, they can tell the difference between similar ingredients that novices confuse: aconite versus belladonna, asphodel versus lily root. Hermione excels because precision is her nature. She memorizes not just the names, but the properties, the uses, the preparation methods. Snape gives her books on ingredient preparation and finds her at age 7 taking notes in a neat, organized hand. Ron surprises everyone. He doesn't memorize properties the way Hermione does, but he has instinct. Show him an ingredient once, and he remembers what it looks like, what it smells like, how it feels. More importantly, he develops a sense for timing, when to add ingredients, how long to stir, when a potion is ready even if the color isn't quite right yet. How did you know the pepper-up potion was ready? Snape asks one evening, after Ron correctly identified the moment to remove a practice brew from heat. Ron shrugs. It felt ready, like the steam smelled different. That's guessing. But I was right, wasn't it? He was. And Snape, who has spent his life mastering potion making through rigid adherence to method, doesn't know what to do with a 7-year-old who brews by instinct. Harry is competent, not exceptional, not instinctive, just solid. He follows instructions carefully, measures precisely, and produces acceptable results. Snape notes this with an emotion he refuses to examine. James Potter was hopeless at potions, couldn't brew a simple cure for boils without melting his cauldron. Harry is better. Not brilliant, but better. Acceptable work, Snape tells Harry after a successful forgetfulness potion. Harry's face lights up like Snape has handed him the world. Really? I said acceptable, not outstanding. Don't let it go to your head. But Harry is grinning anyway, and Snape realizes that his approval means something to this child. Means enough that acceptable is a victory. He files this information away and continues teaching. Occlumency. Age 7. Teaching occlumency to 7-year-olds is Snape's most controversial decision and his most important one. Occlumency is the magical defense of the mind against external penetration. It requires emotional control, mental discipline, and the ability to construct barriers between your true thoughts and what you present to the world. Harry failed spectacularly when Snape tried to teach him at 15 because of mutual hostility. And Harry's emotional openness, but 7-year-olds raised by Severus Snape have been learning emotional regulation since infancy. Snape's household demands control. No tantrums, they're inefficient and solve nothing. No outbursts, they reveal weakness. No unguarded displays of emotion. The world will use your feelings against you if you let them see. This is not healthy parenting by any therapeutic standard. A child psychologist would have strong concerns about teaching children to suppress their emotions. But Snape isn't raising well-adjusted children. He's raising survivors. Sit down, he tells them one evening after dinner. All 3 children, Harry, Ron, and Hermione, age 7, sit cross-legged on the floor of the sitting room. Candles flicker on every surface. Books line the walls. This room has become their classroom, their library, their home. I'm going to teach you occlumency, Snape says. It's the art of protecting your mind from intrusion. Do you understand why this matters? Hermione guesses. Partially, but more than that, it's about control. Your emotions, your memories, your fears. If you cannot control them, they control you. And people who want to hurt you will exploit that. How? Harry asks. Legilimency. Mind reading. A skilled legilimens can look into your eyes and see your thoughts, your memories, your secrets, unless you learn to defend yourself. Can you do that? Ron asks. The mind reading thing? Yes. All three children look alarmed. Snape allows himself a small, grim smile. I have never used legilimency on any of you, and I will not start now. Your children. Invading a child's mind would be unconscionable, but others won't share my scruples. So you will learn to defend yourselves. Snape doesn't invade their minds with legilimency. Instead, he teaches them meditation. Close your eyes, clear your mind, push away every thought except one, the feeling of being safe. What does safe feel like to you? For Hermione, safe is books and knowledge and having answers. For Ron, safe is laughter and his siblings, and knowing where everyone is. For Harry, safe is Spinner's End, this house, these people, the knowledge that when he wakes up from nightmares, someone will be there. Hold on to that feeling, Snape instructs. Make it a place in your mind, a room where you can go when the world is too much. Build walls around it, strong walls, walls that nothing can break through. They practice every night, 10 minutes before bed, building mental rooms, filing memories away behind doors, learning to present a calm surface over turbulent waters. It's a bedtime ritual, strange, intimate, uniquely theirs. Three children and their guardian, sitting in silence in the candlelit sitting room, practicing the art of hiding their hearts. Clear your mind. Build your wall. What is behind the wall stays behind the wall. By age 8, they can construct basic mental shields. Nothing sophisticated. They're children, not trained spies. But they can compartmentalize, can file away painful memories instead of dwelling on them, can present neutral faces even when emotions rage underneath. This will save their lives one day. Snape knows it. So he continues teaching, night after night, building foundations that will hold when the world tries to tear them down. The family dynamic. 4 broken pieces. Finding a shape. Snape and Harry form the most complex relationship. Harry has James's face and Lily's eyes. Every time Snape looks at him, he sees the woman he loved killed by his own mistake. Wearing the face of the man he hated, Snape could never get past this. But this Snape has no choice. He changes Harry's diapers when Harry is a toddler. Treats Harry's childhood fevers. Once spending an entire night checking his temperature every hour, muttering counterjinxes against illnesses that aren't even magical, because Snape's fear of losing another person to his failures extends even to common colds. Sits with Harry through nightmares about green light every single time. For years, over 10 years, the face becomes simply Harry's face. The eyes become Harry's eyes, still green, still Lily's genetic legacy, but belonging to this boy who stands between his siblings and danger, who yearns for Snape's approval more than anything, who is brave and kind and nothing like James Potter except in the shape of his face. Snape's guilt transforms from abstract torment into concrete action. Every lesson is atonement. Every meal, every word placed on the house, every time he checks on Harry during nightmares and doesn't leave until the crying stops. He never says I love you. He says again during Occlumency practice. Says acceptable when Harry brews a passable potion. Says you will not leave this house without your wand. With an intensity that means something far deeper, Harry learns to read safety in Snape's severity. He doesn't wish for parents he never knew. He has a parent, difficult and demanding and present. What Harry yearns for is Snape's approval. That rare nod, that almost imperceptible softening around the eyes when Harry does something well. At age 9, Harry asks, "Do you think my mother would be proud of me?" They're in the garden. Snape is harvesting Dittany. Harry is helping, carefully, precisely, the way Snape taught him. Snape's hands still on the plant. Yes. How do you know? Because you're brave and kind and you protect the people you love. That's exactly what she would have wanted. Did you know her well? What happened? I made choices she couldn't forgive. I joined people she fought against. I hurt her, and I lost her friendship because of it. Harry thinks about this. Do you think she'd forgive you now, if she could see what you're doing? Snape closes his eyes. I don't know. I hope so. Harry goes back to harvesting Dittany. I think she would. You're protecting me. That's what she wanted, right? Snape doesn't tell Harry that forgiveness isn't that simple. That Lily died because of his actions. That some mistakes don't get forgiven. He just keeps harvesting Dittany and lets Harry's words settle somewhere in his chest where the guilt lives. Snape and Hermione develop the most intellectually productive relationship. Hermione's need for academic validation finds its ultimate test in a guardian who considers outstanding the baseline and exceeds expectations, an insult. But unlike the classroom, where Snape called her an insufferable know-it-all, the domestic relationship evolves differently. Hermione is the child most like Snape intellectually, obsessive, precise, hungry for knowledge in a way that borders on compulsion. He recognizes himself in her. By age 8, she's read half his library. By 10, she's arguing with him about potion theory. The standard method for brewing Felix Felicis requires 6 months, Hermione says one evening, pointing to a passage in advanced potion making. But this note in the margin says you can reduce it to 4 months if you adjust the temperature during the 3rd phase. That note is from my school days. The adjustment works, but it's risky. 1 degree too high and the entire batch becomes poison. Once. When I was 17 and too arrogant to accept that 6 months was optimal. Did it work? Yes. That doesn't mean you should try it. Snape recognizes that scowl because it's his own. The expression of someone who sees a challenge and wants to conquer it. Rules be damned. When you're 17, you can attempt experimental potion modifications, Snape says. Until then, you follow standard procedures. Understand, that's not fair. Life rarely is. You'll find that accepting limitations makes you stronger, not weaker. Hermione doesn't accept this argument, but she doesn't push further. Yet. Snape knows she'll be back to this topic in a year, maybe less, with better arguments and more research. He finds himself looking forward to it. Hermione challenges him in ways his Hogwarts students never do. They're afraid of him. Appropriately so. But Hermione has lived with him for 10 years. She knows the difference between Snape's genuine anger and his teaching manner. She's not afraid. She's engaged. He starts leaving advanced texts, where she can find them, a silent curriculum tailored to her racing mind. She devours them all, and comes back with questions that force Snape to actually research answers, because his own knowledge has gaps. "You're enjoying this," Dumbledore observes during a weekly check-in, after Snape spends 15 minutes explaining Hermione's latest theoretical challenge. "Don't be absurd. Severus, you just spent 15 minutes discussing transfiguration theory with genuine enthusiasm. You're enjoying being intellectually challenged by a 10-year-old. But he doesn't deny it either. Snape and Ron is the most surprising success. Ron's insecurity about being overshadowed evaporates in a household of 3 rather than 9. He's not competing with 5 older brothers for attention. He's not the youngest, the poorest, the least remarkable Weasley. He's Ron. The middle child, the funny one, the one who makes the dark house at Spinner's End, actually feel like a home. Snape is bewildered by Ron's humor. He's never lived with someone who laughs easily. His childhood was violence and silence. His adolescence was bullying and isolation. His adult life has been war and death and guilt. Laughter is foreign. But Ron laughs. At gnomes and soap bubbles, and Hermione's scowl and Harry's protectiveness. And even, occasionally, at Snape's dry sarcasm when he doesn't realize he's being funny. "Why are you laughing?" Snape asks one evening, after making a comment about a student's essay that Ron finds hilarious. "Because that was brilliant. The only thing this essay demonstrates is that sleeping through class is not, in fact, a valid study method. That's the best thing I've heard all week." "It's savage, in the best way." Snape doesn't understand. But Ron keeps laughing, and the sound fills the sitting room, and something about the house feels less oppressive when Ron is happy. Ron's strategic mind manifests early. The same gift that mastered wizard chess develops here in different ways. Reading situations, anticipating Snape's moods, navigating the household's emotional landscape with remarkable dexterity. "We should ask him about the Quidditch thing after dinner," Ron tells Harry and Hermione one afternoon, when they're 9. "Not before. He's always in a better mood after he's eaten." "How do you know?" Hermione asks. "Because I pay attention. He's less snippy when he's not hungry. Also, ask right after we finish Occlumency practice, because that's when he's most relaxed." Ron is right. They ask about attending a Quidditch match at Hogwarts, something Snape has been reluctant to permit, because public exposure is risky, and he agrees with minimal argument. Later, Snape realizes he's been tactically maneuvered by a 9-year-old, and doesn't know whether to be irritated or impressed. He settles on impressed. Tactical intelligence is valuable. Ron has it in abundance. Snape teaches Ron chess, and is startled to find himself losing within a year. He never tells Ron he's impressed. Ron knows anyway. The sibling bond is the story's beating heart. These 3 children, thrown together by tragedy, become something more than friends or foster siblings. They are a unit, a 3-person organism that communicates in shared glances and half-finished sentences. Harry is the protector, steps between his siblings and any perceived threat, with an instinct that predates memory. When Ron gets too close to the venomous tentacula in the garden, Harry physically pulls him back. When Hermione is frustrated to tears over a transfiguration problem, Harry sits with her until she's calm enough to try again. Hermione is the strategist, plans and prepares and worries enough for all 3. She's the one who reads ahead in textbooks Snape hasn't assigned yet. The one who figures out that if they finish their chores early, Snape lets them have extra time in the library. The one who notices patterns and exploits them for maximum efficiency. Ron is the emotional anchor, cracks jokes when the house feels too dark, climbs into Harry's bed during thunderstorms, and pretends he's the one who needs comfort, so Harry can provide it without admitting he's scared too. Makes Hermione laugh when she's spiraling into anxiety. Keeps the family human. They fight, sometimes. Ron and Hermione argue about everything from the correct way to organize books to whether Quidditch is more important than studying. Harry mediates. They make up. The bond holds. You're lucky, Snape tells them once, watching them work together on a potions project. Most siblings don't have what you have. What do we have? Harry asks. Each other, and the sense to recognize that's valuable. They exchange glances, that silent sibling communication Snape has learned to recognize. Then Harry says, "We know. We're not going to take it for granted. See that you don't." But Snape knows they won't. These three children lost everything before they came to Spinner's End. They know exactly how precious it is to have people who stay. The Boggart. Age 9, Snape is teaching them to recognize dark creatures from a textbook. They're 9 years old. Harry, Ron, and Hermione sitting at the kitchen table with Advanced Defense Against the Dark Arts open between them. Outside, rain hammers against the windows of Spinner's End. Inside, candles flicker on every surface. Boggarts, Snape says, are non-beings that take the shape of whatever their observer fears most. They live in dark, enclosed spaces. Wardrobes, cupboards, the space beneath staircases. When confronted, they transform immediately. The counterspell is ridiculous, which forces the boggart into a humorous form and neutralizes the fear response. Hermione asks. No one knows. You never see a boggart in its natural state. It transforms the instant it's observed. Ron considers this. So what would a boggart look like to you, then? What do you fear most? But it's interesting. Ron presses. Like, mine would probably be a spider. Massive one, with too many legs. What about you, Hermione? Hermione doesn't hesitate. Failing all my exams, getting my marks back and seeing dreadful on everything. You've never failed anything in your life. They both look at Harry. He's been quiet, staring at the textbook illustration of a boggart, which shows nothing but an amorphous shadow because, as the text explains, no one can illustrate a creature that's never the same twice. Harry? Hermione prompts. Harry speaks slowly, carefully. I think mine would be coming home and the house being empty. Like, I come back from somewhere and you're all gone. The house is dark and silent, and there's no one here. Rain continues drumming against the windows. Snape's teacup trembles slightly in his hand. That's not going to happen, Ron says firmly. We're not going anywhere. You don't know that. People leave, people die. That's what happens. Not us, Hermione says. We're staying right here. Harry looks at Snape. What about you? You could leave, you could decide this is too much and send us away and… That will not happen, Snape interrupts. His voice is sharp, cutting. I made a commitment to raise you. I do not break commitments. But what if… I am… Snape stops, searches for words. I am responsible for you. That responsibility does not end because something becomes difficult. Promise? Harry's voice is very small. Snape looks at this 9-year-old boy with green eyes and fear written across his face. And something cracks in his chest. I promise. Snape closes the textbook. That's enough for today. Go wash up for dinner. The children leave. Snape sits alone in the kitchen, rain hammering outside, and realizes that Harry's deepest fear, abandonment, emptiness, loss, is a fear Snape created. By being distant, by being cold, by never saying the words that would make Harry feel secure. That night, after the children are asleep, Snape adds 3 new layers of protective wards to Spinner's End. Blood wards keyed to the children. Intent-based wards that will arrest him instantly if anything threatens the house. It takes him until 3 a.m. He's exhausted. But Harry's words echo in his mind, coming home and the house being empty, and Snape works until every ward is flawless. This is his love language. Not words, not affection. But wards on the house, and protections layered so thick that nothing can touch the people inside. He doesn't tell Harry about the wards, but Harry, who has learned to read Snape's silences, knows anyway. September 1st, 1991. The Hogwarts Express. They're 11 years old. Harry Potter, Ron Weasley, and Hermione Granger. 3 children who have never been away from Spinner's End, about to board the Hogwarts Express and enter a world that knows nothing about them except rumors. Snape brings them to King's Cross Station. He's already at Hogwarts. His teaching duties began a week ago. But he flew back to Spinner's End this morning specifically to see them off. He won't admit it's because he wants to make sure they're all right. Won't admit that the house felt wrong without their voices filling it. Platform 9 3/4 is chaos. Parents saying goodbye. Students greeting friends. Trunks being loaded onto the train. Owls hooting in cages. Snape stands with his 3 children, and they are his children no matter what the blood says, and gives them final instructions. Trust no one you have not tested. Watch everything right to me weekly. We know, Hermione says. You've told us this 17 times. Tell them the truth. You were orphaned in the war. I became your guardian. Anyone who has a problem with that is not worth your time. Even if they're in Slytherin, Ron asks. Even if they're purebloods who think you should have let Hermione go to some orphanage. Snape's jaw tightens. Especially then. The opinions of bigots are worthless. You know your worth. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. Snape looks at each of them in turn. Harry with his messy black hair and green eyes and protective instincts that will either save him or get him killed. Ron with his red hair and strategic mind and humor that makes everything bearable. Hermione with her bushy brown hair and brilliant mind and need to prove herself that mirrors Snape's own. You'll be fine, he says. It comes out more abrupt than intended. We know, Harry says. The sorting, it doesn't matter which house you're in. You're still family. We know that too. And, if anyone, we know. Harry steps forward, hugs Snape quickly, awkwardly. Snape freezes for a moment, then carefully puts one hand on Harry's back. It lasts 3 seconds. Harry steps back. Ron follows. His hug is briefer, more self-conscious. Thanks for everything. You know. Teaching us and stuff. Adequate gratitude. Snape says dryly. Truly moving. Hermione hugs him last. We'll write every week. I'll make sure the boys do too. See that you do. They board the train, find a compartment, lean out the window to wave as the train begins to move. Snape stands on the platform and watches until the train disappears, around a bend. Then he stands there for another 5 minutes, staring at empty tracks. He doesn't say goodbye. He never says goodbye, but his chest aches in a way he doesn't have words for. He returns to Hogwarts via the Flu network and goes directly to his office. There's paperwork to complete, lessons to prepare, a new batch of first years who will walk into his classroom tomorrow and learn that potions is not a subject for the foolish or careless. 3 of those first years are his. He will treat them exactly the same as every other student. No favoritism, no special consideration, but his eyes will track them through every class, and if anyone threatens them, they will learn exactly why Severus Snape is the most feared professor at Hogwarts. The sorting 3 hats, 3 choices, 1 family. The Great Hall holds its breath when Harry Potter walks forward to be sorted. Everyone knows. The boy who lived. Raised by Severus Snape, the potions master, former Death Eater, coldest professor at Hogwarts. The rumors have been flying since the students boarded the train. Harry Potter lived with Snape, the greasy git from the dungeons, the one who takes points from Gryffindor for breathing wrong? Harry sits on the stool. Professor McGonagall places the sorting hat on his head, and the hat begins to speak, but only Harry hears it. Difficult, very difficult. You have courage, certainly, deep courage, the kind that endures rather than flashes bright and burns out. Loyalty to your chosen family. A good mind, well trained. Cunning and resourcefulness learned at Severus Snape's knee. You could do great things in Slytherin. I don't care about great things, Harry thinks back. I care about my family. Ah, and where is your family going, I wonder? I don't know yet, but wherever they go, I want to follow. Loyalty, the hat muses. Fierce, unshakable loyalty to your people. That's Gryffindor courage. Harry Potter. Not the flashy kind, the steady kind. The kind that shows up every day. So Gryffindor. Unless you'd prefer Slytherin. You do well there. The ambition, the cunning. You have it all. Sort me where I belong, but know that if my family needs me, I'll find a way to be there for them, no matter which house I'm in. The hat pauses. Then, with something that sounds almost like approval. Gryffindor. The Gryffindor table erupts. Harry walks toward them, but his eyes find the Ravenclaw table, where Hermione will sit, and the Slytherin table where Ron might end up. Wherever they go, the triangle will hold. At the head table, Snape's face is an impenetrable mask, but Dumbledore sees the briefest flicker. Not disappointment, not surprise, but recognition. His son chose bravery. Just like Lily, Hermione Granger walks forward next. The hat barely touches her head before it starts deliberating. Brilliant mind. Extraordinary, really. You belong in Ravenclaw, where minds like yours can soar. But I value bravery, Hermione thinks. Knowledge without courage is useless. That's what I've learned. Severus Snape taught you that, didn't he? The brave coward. The man who values cleverness, but defines himself by courage. He's not a coward. No, he's not. And neither are you. But Hermione Granger, where will you do the most good? In Gryffindor, where you'll follow your brothers into flashy heroics? Or in Ravenclaw, where you'll learn to think 10 steps ahead to outmaneuver enemies before they strike? To use your mind as the weapon it truly is? Hermione hesitates. Thinks of Harry and Ron at the Gryffindor table. Thinks of 10 years at Spinner's End, never separated from them for more than a few hours. But she also thinks of Snape's library. Of the hours spent reading, arguing, challenging. Of the way knowledge has always been her comfort, her power, her home. I can help them better if I'm smarter, she thinks. If I learn everything I can. If I become the strategist our family needs. Hermione walks toward them, but she catches Harry's eyes across the hall. He nods once. She nods back. The triangle holds. At the head table, Snape's expression doesn't change, but something in his eyes might be approval. Ron Weasley is last of the three. The hat sits on his head for a long moment. You're not a Weasley in upbringing, are you? No family tradition pulling you to Gryffindor. You could be a Hufflepuff. That loyalty runs deep. You could be a Slytherin. That strategic mind is sharp as knives. You could be anywhere. Where do I belong? Ron asks. Where do you think you belong? Of being the one who made people laugh when the house felt too dark. Of climbing into Harry's bed during storms and pretending the comfort was for Ron when it was really for both of them. Of reading Snape's moods and navigating the household and choosing connection over safety every single time. I choose my people, Ron thinks. Always. I choose connection. I choose standing with Harry even when it's dangerous. I choose being there when my family needs me. That's who I am. That, the hat says with satisfaction, is Gryffindor courage. Gryffindor. Ron joins Harry at the Gryffindor table. They grip each other's arms, under the table and across the hall. Hermione catches their eyes and nods once. The triangle holds. 2 in Gryffindor, 1 in Ravenclaw. Different houses, but the same family. At the head table, Dumbledore leans toward Snape. They're separating. That must be difficult. They're adapting, Snape says flatly. As I taught them to. Did you teach them to maintain loyalty across house divisions? I taught them that loyalty transcends arbitrary boundaries. If they've applied that lesson to the house system, they're learning correctly. Dumbledore's eyes twinkle. You're proud of them. I'm satisfied they won't embarrass themselves immediately. That's all. But when the feast ends and the students file out to their dormitories, Snape's eyes track all 3 of his children, Gryffindor and Ravenclaw, and something in his chest eases when he sees them pause in the entrance hall to exchange words before separating. They'll be fine. He raised them to be fine. It still hurts to watch them walk away. The first night, Hermione lies in her Ravenclaw 4-poster bed, staring at an unfamiliar ceiling. The dormitory is comfortable. Blue and bronze tapestries, bookshelves lining the walls, windows overlooking the grounds. Her roommates are already asleep. She's alone for the first time in her memory. At Spinner's End, she shared a room with Harry and Ron until age 6, when Snape expanded the house and gave them separate bedrooms. But they were always close, always within shouting distance. She could hear Ron laughing through the walls, could hear Harry's nightmares, and know when to go sit with him. Now there are 4 beds in his dormitory, and none of them contain her brothers. In Gryffindor Tower, Ron is telling Harry that Hermione will be fine. She's the toughest of the 3 of us, Ron says, his voice determinedly cheerful. She'll probably have the entire Ravenclaw house under her command by Tuesday. Probably, Harry agrees, but his voice is tight. We're still together, Ron continues. Same school, same classes. We'll see her at breakfast. It's fine. Harry pulls out parchment and a quill, writes 2 words, signs it, folds it carefully. What are you doing? Ron asks. Writing to Hermione. We've been separated for 2 hours. I know. Harry sends the letter with a borrowed school owl. It arrives at Ravenclaw Tower 10 minutes later, delivered directly to Hermione's bedside. She unfolds it, reads the 2 words written in Harry's precise handwriting. Hermione's eyes sting. She presses the letter flat under her pillow and closes her eyes. Still here. Not gone. Not abandoned. Just in a different tower. The triangle holds. She falls asleep. Year 1. The Philosopher's Stone. Quirrell harboring Voldemort. The Philosopher's Stone hidden behind protections. Dumbledore orchestrating events to test Harry. But the execution transforms entirely. Snape-raised children don't stumble into mysteries through accidental eavesdropping and rule-breaking. They approach problems tactically. Hermione notices Snape's behavior first, the way he watches Quirrell during meals, the tension in his shoulders when Quirrell speaks. She cross-references library research on possession, dark magic, and Voldemort's known methods. Builds a hypothesis. Harry and Ron conduct surveillance. They track Quirrell's movements using techniques Snape taught them, observing without being observed, noting patterns. Reading body language. Quirrell touches his turban too frequently, avoids mirrors, smells faintly of garlic. They pool information. Hermione presents her research. I think Quirrell is possessed, or being controlled. The symptoms match. By what? Ron asks. I don't know, but something dark. When Snape confronts Harry in the corridor, I don't know what you 3 are up to, but it stops now. This version of Harry reads the subtext. Snape's prohibition is too emphatic, too specific. He knows something. He's working the same problem we are, Harry tells Hermione and Ron later. He can't tell us why, but he knows something's wrong with Quirrell too. So do we keep investigating? Ron asks. Yes, but more carefully. If Snape's involved, it's serious. They proceed not in defiance of Snape, but in parallel with him, recognizing that their guardian is also working the problem, but cannot reveal his role. The descent through the trapdoor happens on the same night. The protections fall differently. The Devil's Snare, Hermione knows the counter immediately. Fire. It hates light and warmth. She conjures blue flames in seconds. The flying keys. Harry's seeker skills still matter, but he's also been trained by Snape to observe patterns. He identifies the correct key faster. The chess game. Ron's moment. This is what he's been training for his entire life, playing against Snape at Spinner's End, learning to see 10 moves ahead, to sacrifice his pieces for position. He plays brilliantly, sacrifices himself with calculated precision. Do you think he planned this? Ron asks before Harry makes the move that puts Ron in check. Snape, I mean, teaching me chess. Do you think he knew we'd need it? I think he prepared us for everything, Harry says. Just in case. Ron nods. Then let's prove him right. Make the move. She knows how he thinks. The Mirror of Erised remains the true test. Harry faces it alone. Quirrell is there. Voldemort's voice hissing from the back of his head. The stone, boy. Get me the stone. He sees Spinner's End. The cramped sitting room with books on every wall. Snape sitting in his armchair, reading. Hermione curled up on the sofa with a textbook. Ron on the floor playing chess against himself. Harry standing in the doorway, watching them, knowing he belongs. He sees his family, the one he has, not the one he lost. The stone appears in his pocket. The fight with Quirrell proceeds. Lily's protection still holds. Quirrell cannot touch Harry, but Harry also knows nonverbal defensive magic, knows how to shield, knows when to run and when to fight. He fights smarter. Still 11, still outmatched, but not helpless. When Snape arrives, he finds Harry unconscious but alive, the stone clutched in his hand, Quirrell dead and Voldemort's shade fled. Snape doesn't speak. He checks every ward, every charm, every possible injury with hands that shake almost imperceptibly. Then he sits in the hospital wing chair and doesn't leave. Harry wakes 12 hours later, sees Snape sitting there, looking like he hasn't slept. Did we win? The stone is safe. Quirrell is dead. You're alive. Snape's voice is flat, controlled. That constitutes victory. Are you angry? Furious? You could have been killed, but we were right. Quirrell was possessed. We stopped him. You were children facing an adult wizard hosting Voldemort's shade. You should have come to me immediately. Yes, I would have. Because I raised you to evaluate evidence and draw logical conclusions. If you'd told me your suspicions, I would have investigated. Oh. Harry processes this. Sorry. Don't apologize. You did what you thought necessary to protect people. That's... Snape stops. Starts again. That's what your mother would have done. Harry's eyes widen. Snape almost never talks about Lily. She was brave, Snape continues, his voice very quiet. Foolishly, recklessly brave. She saw problems and she fixed them. Consequences be damned. You're like her. Is that bad? It's not bad. Ron and Hermione arrive then, bursting into the hospital wing with matching expressions of relief and worry. They pile onto Harry's bed despite Madame Pomfrey's protests. All talking at once. Snape stands. I'll leave you to your reunion. Wait. Harry catches his sleeve. Thank you. For everything. Snape looks at Harry's hand on his sleeve, at Harry's green eyes, at Ron and Hermione flanking their brother, at the family he never meant to build but somehow has. Get some rest, he says. All three of you. We'll discuss your staggering lack of judgment later. But his voice lacks heat. And when he leaves, he doesn't go far. Just to his office, where he sits in the dark and tries to process the fact that he nearly lost them. Dumbledore finds them there 2 hours later. They're fine, Severus. This time, they'll face danger again. You know this. You've been preparing them for it. I've been preparing them to survive. Not to seek out threats. Actively, they're brave. Like their parents. All their parents. Blood and otherwise. Snape doesn't respond, but he knows Dumbledore is right. He raised these children, taught them to protect people, to stand between danger and innocence, to fight when necessary. He just never wanted them to need those lessons this soon. Year 2, the Chamber of Secrets. The summer after first year establishes a new pattern. Harry spends 2 weeks at Privet Drive, the absolute minimum required to renew Lily's blood protection. Vernon and Petunia hate having him there, and Harry hates being there, but the wards require it. Snape collects him on day 15. Harry walks out of 4 Privet Drive with his trunk and doesn't look back. How was it? Snape's mouth twitches. That's his word. Harry's using it deliberately. The Dursleys didn't harm you? They mostly ignored me. I stayed in the guest room and read. It was fine. But Harry has learned to compartmentalize, to file unpleasant experiences behind mental walls, and move forward. Snape taught him that. They return to Spinner's End, where Ron and Hermione are already waiting. The reunion is loud and joyful, and everything the Dursleys' house is not. Year 2's crisis centers on the Chamber of Secrets. The Horcrux diary reaches Ginny Weasley, She's attending Hogwarts now, living with her Aunt Muriel, but desperately lonely for the family she lost. The diary preys on that loneliness. But when the attacks begin, the trio approaches them as investigators, not victims. Hermione researches basilisks, petrification, and the chamber's history. Harry's parseltongue is discovered when he speaks to a snake during dueling club, but Snape already knows. He recognized the ability during Harry's childhood, heard him hissing at garden snakes at age 5, and understood its significance with a chill that kept him awake for 3 nights. "You have the ability to speak to serpents," Snape told Harry when he was 8, after catching him conversing with a grass snake in the garden. "This is parseltongue. It's rare, associated with Salazar Slytherin, and will make people fear you if they know. Do not advertise this ability. Understand." Is it dark magic? It's a language. Languages aren't dark or light. They're tools. But people fear what they don't understand. So when parseltongue is revealed at school, Harry isn't shocked. He's prepared. The chamber confrontation still requires Harry's parseltongue and Gryffindor's sword. But Harry descends with better preparation. Hermione has brewed antidotes for basilisk venom, just in case. Ron has mapped the chamber's likely location based on castle blueprints from the library. Harry carries knowledge of basilisk biology gleaned from Snape's extensive dark creature library. The fight is still terrifying. A 1,000-year-old serpent doesn't care about training, but Harry fights smarter, blinds himself intentionally before entering the chamber, remembering that basilisk eyes kill on sight, listens for movement, uses parseltongue to confuse the serpent while he positions himself. Fawkes still comes because courage calls to Dumbledore's phoenix. The Sorting Hat still delivers the sword. Gryffindor recognizes valor. Harry destroys the diary with a basilisk fang, saves Ginny, returns to find Snape in the chamber, wand drawn, looking like he's aged 10 years. "How did you find me?" Harry asks. "You told Ron where you were going." "Ron told me. I've been searching the pipes for 20 minutes. Snape's voice is rigidly controlled. "You could have died, but I didn't. That is not an acceptable outcome metric." Harry grins despite himself. "That's a very Hermione way of saying you were worried." "I was not worried, I was tactically concerned." "Right, tactically concerned." Ron and Hermione arrive then, having followed Snape through the pipes. More reunion. More relief. More of Snape standing apart and watching his children with an expression he won't name. They're safe, for now. That has to be enough. Year 3, The Prisoner of Azkaban. This is where the divergence creates explosive tension. Sirius Black escapes Azkaban. Remus Lupin arrives to teach defense against the dark arts. And Snape, who has spent 12 years believing Sirius betrayed Lily, who loathes the Marauders with pathological hatred, must navigate his children's proximity to 2 men who represent the worst chapter of his life. Snape's version of James Potter, told to Harry over the years, is complicated. Not the heroic martyr of popular legend, not purely evil either. "Your father was brave," Snape has said, "but he was also cruel. He hexed people for entertainment, bullied those he considered beneath him. He grew out of it, eventually married your mother, joined the Order, fought Voldemort. But the boy I knew at school was not someone I could respect." This is incomplete truth. Snape's worst memory confirms James was a bully, but it's also missing context. James saved Snape's life from a werewolf, risked his own life protecting people, died defending his family. When Lupin arrives and Harry sees a man who speaks of James with love and grief, the first serious crack appears in Harry's unquestioning trust of Snape's worldview. "Professor Lupin says my father was one of the bravest people he knew," Harry says at dinner during a Hogsmeade weekend. They're at Spinner's End. Snape still insists on regular family dinners, even while teaching. Snape's fork pauses. "Professor Lupin knew your father well. His perspective is valid. But you said my father was a bully. Both things are true. People are complex." Lupin experienced something different. So which version is real? Both. Neither. Memory is subjective, Harry. 10 people can witness the same event and have 10 different interpretations. Hermione, watching this exchange, speaks up. "You're saying you can't trust anyone's version of history completely, including yours. I'm saying you should collect multiple perspectives and draw your own conclusions." This is the first time Snape has admitted his view might be biased. Harry doesn't know what to do with that. The Shrieking Shack revelation comes in June, after Sirius Black has been spotted near Hogwarts repeatedly. The trio has been investigating, again, tactically, using skills Snape taught them. When they finally corner Peter Pettigrew, living as Ron's rat Scabbers, the confrontation happens in the Shrieking Shack with Sirius and Lupin present. Snape arrives furious, wand drawn, ready to drag Sirius to the Dementors. But Harry, Ron, and Hermione have been trained to evaluate evidence, not react emotionally. "Wait," Harry says. "Just wait." Snape, who has spent 12 years teaching these children to think critically, to question assumptions, to demand proof, stops. "You have 1 minute." Lupin speaks first. James and Lily made me secret keeper. But at the last moment, we switched. Made Peter the secret keeper instead, because no one would suspect him. Sirius was the decoy. You have no proof. I have my testimony under veritaserum if necessary. And we have Peter. The rat transforms, Peter Pettigrew stands there, balding and trembling. And Snape's world tilts. Severus, please. Peter whimpers. You were always kind to me at school. I was never kind to anyone. Snape's wand doesn't waver, especially not traitors. The full story emerges. Peter was the secret keeper. Peter betrayed the Potters. Peter killed those muggles and framed Sirius. Sirius is innocent. Snape must confront the fact that he was wrong, that his hatred blinded him, that an innocent man spent 12 years in Azkaban because no one questioned the evidence. This is the first time Harry has seen Snape wrong about something that matters. You believed he was guilty, Harry says quietly, after Peter is bound and Sirius is sitting against the wall, looking like he might collapse from relief. For 12 years you believed it, but you were wrong, yes. The word comes out like broken glass. I was wrong. What else have you been wrong about? It's a fair question. A devastating question. Snape has built his relationship with these children on honesty. Brutal, painful honesty. Now that foundation trembles. I don't know, Snape says. I will reassess my assumptions. It's the closest he's ever come to admitting fallibility. Harry nods slowly. The foundation doesn't crack, but it shifts. Becomes more complex, less absolute. Trust deepens in unexpected ways. Because Snape admitted error? Because he didn't double down or make excuses? Because he looked at the evidence and changed his mind? That night, back at Spinner's End, they sit in the cramped sitting room with the books and the candles and the smell of old parchment. I owe Sirius Black 12 years of his life, Snape says. I cannot repay that debt, but I can ensure he receives the trial he should have had originally. He's Harry's godfather, Hermione points out. Doesn't that mean... That changes things. Harry looks at Snape. Are you going to send me away? What? No. Why would Snape stops? Processes. You think I'd surrender guardianship to Black? He's my godfather. He's family. Real family. You have real family here, I know. But blood means nothing, Snape says sharply. Family is who stays, who shows up, who teaches you to survive. Sirius Black is your godfather, and I will help him reclaim his freedom. But you live here, with me, with Ron and Hermione. Unless you choose otherwise. I'm not choosing otherwise, Harry says immediately. I just thought, you thought I'd abandon you the moment someone with a better claim appeared. That says more about your fears than my intentions. Harry's deepest fear, coming home to an empty house. He's still afraid of abandonment. I'm not leaving, Snape says, and this time his voice is gentler. You're not leaving. We're staying here, together, understand? Harry nods. Something in his chest unknots. The triangle holds. Even when the world outside shifts, the center holds. Year 4. The Goblet of Fire. Summer after third year. Harry to Privet Drive for his 2 weeks. Back to Spinner's End. The Quidditch World Cup. Snape takes all 3 children, because he's learned that denying them normal experiences creates resentment. The dark mark appears in the sky. Snape sees it and goes very still. Get behind me, all of you, now. They've trained for this. Drop behind cover. Wands out. Silent. Wait for assessment. The Death Eaters are gone before they arrive, but the mark burns green above them, and Snape stares at it with an expression the children have never seen before. Fear. Is he back? Harry asks quietly. Not yet, but soon. The Goblet of Fire spits out Harry's name. Snape's reaction is not sneering suspicion, but cold, tactical alarm. Someone circumvented an age line and a powerful magical artifact to place his son in mortal danger. This is targeted, planned. An attack. Snape enters full operational mode. You will not compete alone, he tells Harry. Every task you prepare with Hermione and Ron. Every strategy we review together. This is no longer a school competition. This is survival. The first task. The dragon. They prepare for weeks. Snape's potions expertise provides options. Hermione researches dragon behaviors. Ron maps the arena and calculates optimal movement patterns. Harry faces the Hungarian horntail with a strategy. Conjunctivitis curse to blind it temporarily. Summoning charm for the egg while it's disoriented. Retreat. Clean. Efficient. Not flashy. The second task. The lake. Ron's strategic thinking. They'll take what we treasure most. That's us. So we're going into the lake. We need gillyweed for all 3 of us. The task is mine alone, Harry says. The preparation is ours. We're not letting you drown because of some stupid tournament rule. Save their chosen hostages. Harry saves Ron. Ron saves Hermione. Hermione saves Gabrielle Delacour, who is left behind. The judges debate disqualifying them. Dumbledore argues for full points. They showed moral fiber, saving an additional hostage. The third task, the maze. Harry enters with every advantage Snape can provide. Antidotes in his pockets. Shield charms practiced until automatic. Stunners nonverbal. But the portkey activates anyway. The cup transports him to the graveyard. Voldemort takes Harry's blood. The ritual succeeds. Voldemort returns. But Harry has been trained by Severus Snape for 13 years. He's not helpless. He observes. Catalogs, Death Eaters. Lucius Malfoy, Crabbe, Goyle, Nott. Notes their positions. Their wands. Their reactions when Voldemort rises. When Voldemort offers to duel, Harry shields properly. Dodges efficiently. Fights smart. He still can't win. He's 14 and Voldemort is Voldemort. But he survives with fewer injuries and more intelligence gathered. The Priori Incantatum still happens. Lily and James still emerge from the wand connection. Lily's shade looks at Harry and whispers, "You've grown so strong. We're proud. Tell Severus, tell him we understand what he's done. Tell him thank you." And Snape is the first person at his side. For the first and only time in anyone's memory, Severus Snape pulls Harry Potter into an unmistakable embrace. Holds him for 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Then releases him. Neither of them mentions it, but Ron saw. Hermione saw. Half the school saw. Severus Snape, the cold potions master who never shows emotion, embracing a student like he was family, because he is family. Everyone just witnessed it. The hospital wing, the return. Harry sits in the hospital wing, still shaking. Ron is on one side, Hermione on the other. Snape stands at the foot of the bed, arms crossed, face stone. Dumbledore asks Harry to recount what happened. Harry describes the graveyard. The ritual bone of the father, flesh of the servant, blood of the enemy. Voldemort's rebirth. The Death Eaters who came when called. When he names the Death Eaters he saw, he pauses, looks at Snape. "I know what you have to do now," Harry says quietly. "I know where you have to go back to." The room goes silent. Snape inclines his head, a fraction of a degree. Acknowledgement. "You will not worry about me." Snape says, "It's an order. It's a plea. I'm going to worry anyway." "Then worry silently and don't do anything foolish." "Like what?" "Like attempting to follow me. Like trying to protect me. Like any of the reckless heroics you three specialize in." Snape's voice is sharp. "I have been a spy for longer than you've been alive. I know what I'm doing." "But you'll be in danger," Hermione says. "Every day. Voldemort will believe I remain his loyal servant. I will maintain that fiction, and I will send information to the Order as I have always done. This is not new, and it is not your concern." "You're our father," Harry says. The word slips out before he can stop it. "Of course it's our concern." Snape freezes. The room is utterly silent. He's never been called that before. Not by Harry. Not by any of them. They've called him Snape, or Sir, or, occasionally, Professor, even at home. Never father. "I am your guardian," Snape says, and his voice is more controlled than his expression. "There is a distinction." "Is there?" Ron asks. "Because from where we're sitting, you've been our dad for 13 years? Legal definitions are just paperwork." Snape looks at these 3 children, his students, his wards, his responsibility, his family. He doesn't know what to say. Dumbledore, watching from the corner, decides to intervene. "Perhaps we should let Harry rest." "Severus, a word." Dumbledore's expression is gentle. "They love you, you know. They're children. They don't understand. They understand perfectly. You raised them, fed them, taught them, protected them, sat with them through nightmares and fears, and every challenge they've faced. You're their father in every way that matters. I am not qualified to be anyone's father. And yet, you've done it brilliantly for 13 years. Can't respond. The weight of it is too much. That these children see him as family. That they called him father. That after everything he's done and failed to do, they still want him. Voldemort is back," Dumbledore says quietly. "The war begins again. And Severus, you will be in more danger than anyone. Returning to his side, pretending loyalty, feeding him lies while sending us truth. It's the most dangerous role in this entire conflict. Are you prepared?" Snape thinks of 3 children in a hospital wing. Of Harry saying, "I know where you have to go back to," with adult understanding in young eyes. Of Ron and Hermione flanking their brother like shields. Of 13 years at Spinner's End, transforming a house of nightmares into something close to home. "Yes," Snape says. "I'm prepared. Good. Because we need you. They need you. And this time, Severus," Dumbledore's voice is very serious. "This time you have something worth surviving for." The children are talking quietly, but they stop when he enters. "I have to leave tonight," Snape says. "Return to him. Re-establish my position. This will not be safe, and I cannot contact you frequently, do you understand?" "We understand," Harry says. You will stay at Hogwarts. You will not attempt to help me. You will focus on your studies and your training and staying alive. Yes? Yes. Good. Snape pauses, searches for words. You have been. He stops, tries again. I am satisfied with your development thus far. You have learned what I attempted to teach you. That is adequate. They know. They've learned his language. Adequate from Severus Snape means everything. We'll be here when you get back, Harry says. At Spinner's End, waiting. Snape nods once. Then he leaves, black robes billowing, to return to Voldemort's side and play the most dangerous role in the war. Behind him, 3 children sit together and promise each other silently. No matter what happens, no matter how dark it gets, they'll survive this. They'll stay together, because that's what Severus Snape taught them. Survival. Family. The 2 things that matter most. Year 5 through 7, the war years. The revelation about Snape's past comes over Christmas holiday, 4th year, after Voldemort's return makes the full truth unavoidable. There at Spinner's End. The sitting room, with its books and candles and the threadbare armchair where Snape has held crying children and taught occlumency, and just existed for 13 years. Snape sits them down, tells them everything. I joined the Death Eaters when I was 18. I was angry and poor and desperate for power. They promised me importance. I was young and stupid, and I believed them. I heard a prophecy about a child who would have the power to defeat the Dark Lord. I carried that prophecy to Voldemort. Like a gift. Like proof of my loyalty. Harry's face goes very still. Voldemort chose to target the Potters. Because of the prophecy. Because I told him. Your mother died because of information I provided. The silence is absolute. After she died, I turned against Voldemort. Not out of moral conviction, out of desperate, selfish love for a woman who had stopped being my friend years earlier because I called her a mudblood and joined the people who wanted her dead. I begged Dumbledore to protect you. He asked what I would give in return. I said anything. Snape looks at each of them. Everything I have done since, every potion brewed, every lesson taught, every ward placed on this house, has been atonement for the murder I caused. I cannot undo what I did. I can only try to balance the scales. And I am telling you this now because you deserve the truth before I return to Voldemort's service, and you need to understand what kind of man I am. Hermione processes first. 3 days locked in her room, reading war records, trial testimony, order reports. She emerges with her conclusion. You did terrible things. You have spent 17 years trying to undo them. The math does not balance yet, but you are trying. That is not nothing. Ron is furious. My parents are dead because of people like you. Were you there? Were you at the Burrow? I was not, but I cannot swear that no one I recruited was. The Death Eaters I brought to Voldemort's service killed many people. Your parents may have been among them. Ron's anger lasts weeks. The house goes cold without his laughter. The thaw comes on a Tuesday evening. Snape sits down opposite Ron's chessboard, without a word. Moves a pawn. They play in silence. Harry's reaction is quietest and most devastating. He looks at Snape with Lily's green eyes and says, You told Voldemort the prophecy. He went to my parents because of you. My mother died because of you. On the 12th day, he comes to breakfast and sits in his usual seat. Doesn't say I forgive you. Says, teach me everything I need to kill him. The Patronus. Months after the revelation, Snape teaches Harry to cast a corporeal Patronus. They're in the sitting room at Spinner's End. Books on every wall, candles flickering, the smell of potions from the cellar below. A Patronus. Requires a powerful happy memory. Snape says, the happiest you can recall, focus on it. Let it fill you completely. Then the incantation. Expecto Patronum. Harry has tried before. The memory was never strong enough. He tries again now. Thinks of the first time Snape said, acceptable, and Harry felt like he'd conquered the world. Thinks of Ron making him laugh until his sides hurt. Thinks of Hermione reading aloud from textbooks while they brew potions together. Not strong enough. He digs deeper. Remembers being 9 years old with a fever. Waking in the night to find Snape sitting by his bed, checking his temperature every hour, muttering counterjinxes against illnesses that weren't even magical. Snape's fear of losing another person extended even to common colds. Remembers understanding. Even at 9, this man is afraid of losing me. This man cares whether I live or die. This man is staying awake all night just to make sure I'm safe. That's the memory. Not grand heroics. Just a man sitting by a child's sickbed, afraid. Expecto Patronum. Silver light explodes from Harry's wand. A corporeal Patronus, massive, solid, powerful. A stag. James Potter's animagus form. Lily's love made manifest. Severus Snape's legacy walking through the sitting room of Spinner's End. Snape stares at it. His face goes white. He stands abruptly. Walks out of the room. When he returns 20 minutes later, his eyes are red. Neither of them mentions it. But Harry knows. Snape saw James's form, created by Harry's love for the man who raised him. And something inside Snape broke and mended simultaneously. The Horcrux hunt. Year 6. Dumbledore shares more of the Horcrux plan with Snape. Having entrusted him with 3 children, Dumbledore trusts him with this. 7 Horcruxes. He made 7. The diary is destroyed. The ring. I found it. Destroyed it. But the curse. Severus. I'm dying. A year. Perhaps less. Then we accelerate the plan. No. We follow it exactly. Including the part where you must kill me. Snape's hands clench. You're asking me to murder you in front of the entire school. In front of my children. I'm asking you to save them. Draco Malfoy has been ordered to kill me. If he succeeds, Voldemort will know Draco can be controlled through threats to his family. If he fails, Voldemort will kill him. You must take the task from Draco and complete it yourself. They will, because you'll tell them the truth beforehand. Severus, they trust you. They understand sacrifice. Tell them what must happen and why. Let them help carry this burden. So Snape does. Christmas, Year 6. Spinner's End. The children are 16. Dumbledore is dying. A curse from a Horcrux. We destroyed it, but the damage was done. He has a year at most. Voldemort has ordered Draco Malfoy to kill him. If Draco succeeds, Voldemort gains complete control over the Malfoy family. If Draco fails, Voldemort kills him. Dumbledore has asked me to take the task and complete it myself. You have to kill Dumbledore? Hermione's voice is very small. Yes. On Dumbledore's orders. To protect Draco and to maintain my cover with Voldemort. If I refuse, everything we've worked for is lost. So we'll know, Harry says slowly. When it happens? When everyone thinks you betrayed us. We'll know the truth. Yes. And we have to pretend we don't. Have to act like you're a traitor, like we hate you. It's still terrible. They sit in silence, processing, accepting. We'll need a way to communicate, Hermione says finally. You'll be with Voldemort, we'll be hunting Horcruxes. Wine and Harry's can find each other. Silver doe and silver stag. That's really sappy, Ron says. It's tactical. It's tactically sappy, despite everything. Snape's mouth twitches. Almost a smile. The plan proceeds. Dumbledore dies on the astronomy tower in June. Snape casts the killing curse. The school erupts in chaos. The Order brands him traitor. Harry, Ron, and Hermione know the truth, but they have to pretend they don't. Have to act betrayed and furious, and heartbroken. It's the hardest performance of their lives. Year 7. The hunt. The Horcrux hunt becomes a 4-person operation. Snape, now publicly branded traitor and headmaster of Hogwarts under Voldemort's regime, operates from within, protects students, feeds information to the Order through his Patronus, positions defensive assets. Harry, Ron, and Hermione hunt from outside. They have Dumbledore's list, the locket, the cup, the diadem, Nagini. They don't fracture. No Ron walking out. No locket-fueled rage. Their bond was forged at Spinner's End, in a dark house with books and potions, and a man who taught them to survive. That foundation holds. Snape's silver doe appears in their camp, speaks with his voice, sword in frozen pool. Trust the doe. Harry retrieves Gryffindor's sword, destroys the locket. Hermione's research identifies the cup's location. Gringotts' Lestrange vault. They execute the heist, escape on a dragon, destroy the cup. The diadem, hidden at Hogwarts. They have to return. The Battle of Hogwarts, May 2nd, 1998. Voldemort marches on Hogwarts. The castle is prepared. Snape has spent the year protecting students, positioning defenders, planning for this moment. When the trio arrives, Snape doesn't flee. He reveals himself. The moment Severus Snape turns his wand on the Death Eaters from behind is the pivot of the entire war. Voldemort's most trusted lieutenant, the man who killed Dumbledore, standing shoulder to shoulder with Harry Potter, his adopted son, and turning on the Death Eaters. The betrayal sends shockwaves through both sides. The family fights as a unit. Snape anchors the center. Defensive dueling, precise, controlled, devastating on counterattack. Provides cover. Gryffindor courage tempered by Slytherin cunning. Everything Snape taught him made practical. Ron commands strategic defense, positions fighters, anticipates enemy movements. Chess mastery applied to battle. Hermione coordinates intelligence, encyclopedic knowledge of spells and wards. The trio's force multiplier. They're a machine, efficient, deadly, unstoppable when working together. But the Horcrux in Harry remains. The forest. Voldemort calls for Harry. Come to the Forbidden Forest. Face me, or I kill everyone you love, starting with Severus Snape. Dumbledore told him the truth years ago. Harry is a Horcrux. He must die for Voldemort to become mortal. He goes to Snape first, finds him in the castle, wand drawn, face streaked with blood and dirt. I have to go to him. You know why. No. Snape's voice is flat. Absolute. You are not walking to your death. I'm a Horcrux. Dumbledore told me this is the only way. Harry's voice is gentle. You know this. You've known this for years, haven't you? That's why you trained me. Why you taught me everything. You were preparing me to survive this. Snape's face twists. I was preparing you to live, not to die. I know, but sometimes those are the same thing. Your mother. I told Dumbledore I would protect you. I promised. You did protect me. For 16 years. You gave me a home and a family and everything I needed to be ready for this. That's the promise kept. It's everything. Harry pulls the resurrection stone from his pocket. The deathly hallowed Dumbledore left him. He turns it 3 times. Lily Potter materializes. James beside her. Sirius, Lupin. Behind them, like a shadow, Dumbledore himself. Lily looks at Harry with the eyes he inherited and says, "You've grown so strong. We're so proud." "I'm scared," Harry admits. "I know, but you're brave, and you're loved. Tell Severus." She looks past Harry to where Snape stands frozen. "Tell him I understand what he's done. Tell him we forgive him. Tell him thank you." Kneels. Avada Kedavra. The green light strikes. Harry falls. King's Cross. Harry wakes in a white space that looks like King's Cross Station. Dumbledore is there. Am I dead? That depends. Do you want to be? What? Your mother's protection lives in his veins now. As long as he lives, that protection keeps you alive. The Horcrux in your scar is destroyed. His killing curse destroyed it, not you. You can return if you choose. So I can survive this? You can. The question is, will you? Harry thinks of Spinner's End, of Snape and Ron and Hermione. Of the family that stayed. Yes, Harry says. I'm going back. Waits. When Voldemort forces Hagrid to carry his body to the castle, Harry waits for the right moment. Neville kills Nagini with Gryffindor's sword. The last Horcrux falls. Harry reveals himself. The duel in the Great Hall is witnessed by everyone, but Harry doesn't fight alone. Ron and Hermione flank him. Not fighting, just standing there. And behind them, battered and bleeding, wand raised, stands Severus Snape. Not a hidden ally, not a secret agent. A father with his children. In the light, the entire Great Hall sees it. Voldemort sees it. You stand with the boy? Voldemort hisses. After everything. After I gave you power, position, purpose. You stand with James Potter's son? He's not James Potter's son, Snape says quietly. He's Lily's. And mine. And I will stand with him until the end. The duel between Harry and Voldemort proceeds. The Elder Wand's true allegiance. The rebounding curse. Voldemort falls. The war ends. After the Great Hall is full of the living and the dead. Bodies everywhere. Grief and relief mixing in equal measure. Snape sits on the floor against a wall, too exhausted to stand. His robes are torn. His wand arm hangs at an odd angle, broken during the fight. Blood seeps from a curse wound across his ribs. Harry, Ron, and Hermione find him there. Ron sits on his left. Hermione sits on his right. Harry sits in front of him, cross-legged, the way he did during Occlumency lessons when he was 7. Nobody speaks. Hermione takes Snape's broken arm and begins a healing charm. Her wand movements precise. The same precision he taught her. The bone knits slowly, painfully. Snape doesn't flinch. Ron leans his head back against the wall and says, "We should go home." The dark, cramped, book-lined house, where a man who could not love taught 3 children what love looks like when it doesn't know its own name. Snape closes his eyes. Yes, it has always been enough. They sit together against the wall while the world celebrates around them. A family forged in darkness and grief and impossible circumstance. Not perfect, not warm, but present, loyal, unbreakable. 3 children who lost everything found a man who had nothing left to lose. Together, they built something neither side thought possible. A home, a family, a reason to survive. The war is over. Voldemort is dead. And at the end of everything, they have each other. That was always the point. 19 years later, September 1st, 2017. Platform 9 3/4. Harry stands with his wife Ginny, watching their eldest son James prepare to board the Hogwarts Express. Albus is beside him, nervous about his first year. Lily is demanding to know why she can't go yet. Ron and Hermione are there with their daughter Rose, who has inherited Hermione's bushy hair and Ron's strategic mind. Hugo is 11, boarding for the first time, and standing apart from the crowd, dressed in black as always, is Severus Snape. He's 60 years old now, still teaching potions at Hogwarts, still the most unlikely father in wizarding history. James notices him first. Grandpa Severus. The boy runs over, completely unself-conscious. Snape has told James 100 times not to call him that. James ignores him every time. Are you ready for Hogwarts? Snape asks. I guess. Which house do you think I'll be in? That depends entirely on who you are, not who your parents are. The Sorting Hat sees you not your bloodline. What if I'm in Slytherin? Dad says it's fine, but your father was nearly sorted into Slytherin himself. It would be poetic justice if his son ended up there. And James, Snape's voice softens fractionally. Any house would be lucky to have you. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. James grins and runs back to his parents. Harry approaches. Thank you for coming. I attend every September 1st. You know this. I know. But still, thank you. Do you ever regret it? Harry asks quietly. Taking us in? Giving up your life to raise 3 children you never asked for. Snape considers the question. Looks at Harry, 40 years old now, father of 3, survivor. Looks at Ron and Hermione, married and stable and brilliant. Looks at the children boarding the train, carrying forward the legacy of everything they built together. No, Snape says. I don't regret it. Even with everything that happened. The war, Dumbledore, all of it. Especially with all of that. You 3, you were the reason I survived. The reason I had to survive. You gave me purpose when I had none. You gave me... He stops. Searches for words. You gave me a family when I thought I deserved nothing. So no. I don't regret it. We were lucky to have you. You were a disaster in potions, and your occlumency shields remained mediocre throughout your entire education. Lucky is a generous assessment. You're deflecting. I'm being accurate. You love us. That is not. Snape stops, sighs. Yes, fine. I love you, all of you, your children included, though they're far too loud and have no concept of appropriate behavior in a potions laboratory. Please don't. I have a reputation to maintain. The train whistle sounds. Final boarding. The children hug their parents and board. The train begins to move. Harry, Ron, and Hermione stand together, watching it disappear. Snape stands slightly apart, as always. But when Hermione reaches back and takes his hand, he doesn't pull away. They stand like that until the train is gone. 4 people who should never have become a family, but did anyway, who survived war and loss and impossible odds, because they had each other. Dinner at Spinner's End this Sunday? Ron asks. If you must, Snape says. We must. Hermione's cooking? You're providing the wine. I'm bringing chocolate frogs for dessert. That's not dessert. That's sugar-coated disaster. That's tradition. Sunday dinners at Spinner's End. The dark, cramped house with books on every wall, and the smell of potions, and the memories of 3 children growing up in candlelight. It's still not warm. Still not soft, but it's home. And for Severus Snape, the man who promised anything and ended up giving everything, that's always been enough. Let us know what you'd like to see next. The end.